morning, all of you. Back to Adrianmole. The previous week we had done with 4 diary entries. Today we shall look at the remaining part. Told in the form of a diary, which is filled with humor, Townsend details the existence and struggles of Adrian, who fancies himself as an intellectual and often misunderstands the events surrounding him. Moving on to the next diary entry. Sunday, January 25, 3rd after Epiphany. 10 a.m. I am ill with all the worry. Too weak to write much. Nobody has noticed that I haven't eaten any breakfast. 2 p.m. Had 2 junior aspirants at midday and rallied a bit. Perhaps when I'm famous and my diary is discovered, people will understand the torment of being a 13.3/4-year-old undiscovered intellectual. 6 p.m. Pandora, my first love. 8 p.m. Pandora, Pandora, Pandora. Midnight had a crab paste sandwich and a satsuma for the good of my skin. Adrian here says that he is ill because of worries. We know what worries him much, right? His spots on the face, his mother going for job, etc., etc. And here you can also see an attention-seeking teenager when he complains that nobody hasn't noticed that he hasn't eaten his breakfast. Then what? Then we get a picture of the intensity of his love that he has for Pandora. Infatuations in the air. He fancies about his lover, Pandora. There is again something here which makes us laugh. What is it? He says that you'll understand the pain, how you feel like when the intellectual in you remains undiscovered. Saturday, February 7th. My mother and father have been shouting at each other non-stop for hours. It started because of the bacon down the side of the fridge and carried on into how much my father's car is costing to repair. I went up to my room and put my ABBA records on. My father had the nerve to crash my door open and asked me to turn the volume down. I did. When he got downstairs, I turned it up again. Nobody cooked any dinner, so I went to the Chinese chip shop and bought a carton of chips and a sachet of soy sauce. Here we get a picture of the relationship between his parents. It can be described as a cat and dog one, which means there is no harmony among them. You could see that they quarrel over very, very silly things ranging from the bacon to the expenses of the car repair. Monday, March 2nd. My mother has just come into my room and said she had something awful to tell me. I sat up in bed and put up a dead serious expression on my face just in case she had got 6 months to live or she had been caught shoplifting or something. She fiddled with the curtains, dropped cigarette ash over my Concord model and started mumbling on about adult relationships and life being complicated and how she must find herself. She said she was fond of me, and would hate to hurt me. Now one day, on March 2nd, his mother comes to his room and says that she has got something bad to tell him. On hearing this, he imagines that she wants to say that he has got only 6 months to live or she had been caught red-handed for stealing goods from a shop. So he puts up a very serious face. But whatever she said, he doesn't seem to understand. She talks about prison. She talks about marriage being a prison for women, for many women. And Adrianmole doesn't agree with it because he said that women are let out every day to go out to shops and all the stuff, and they go to work, and what my mother is talking about. And he thinks that his mother is getting a bit over emotional. And he also says about adult relationships, maybe. This gives us a hint about the creepy lover she has, Mr. Lucas. When you read the text, when you read the original text, you will know who Mr. Lucas is. His mother, Pauline, his mother's name is Pauline. His mother has an extramarital affair with a guy named Mr. Lucas. Maybe she is referring to that when she says about adult relationships. Okay. Sunday, March 8th, first in Lent. My mother has gone to a women's workshop on assertiveness training. Men aren't allowed. I asked my father what assertiveness training is. He said, God knows, but whatever it is, it's a bad news for me. We had boiled in the bag cod and butter sauce and oven cooked chips for Sunday dinner, followed by tinned peaches and dream topping. My father opened a bottle of white wine and let me have some. I don't know much about wine, but it seemed a pleasant enough vintage. We watched a film on television. Then my mother came home and started bossing us around. She said, the worm has turned and things are going to be different around here. And things like that. Then she went into the kitchen and started making a chart dividing all the household work into 3. I pointed out to her that I already had a paper to do, an old age pensioner to look after, and a dog to feed, as well as my schoolwork. But she didn't listen. She put the chart on the wall and said, we start. So, his mother has gone for an assertiveness training class. You know what assertiveness training class is? Okay, it makes you the class or the people over there makes you strong and confident. Okay, the SAT training the mother has in a woman's workshop makes her a harsh woman, and she forgets her duty as a wife and a mother. And as a result of her assertiveness training, she wants to change the conditions at home, and she makes a chart dividing the household chores into 3, one for the husband, one for herself, and one for the son. Unfortunately, the result of this division of labor is that the teenager boy has to do almost all the work at home. You can see that in the next diary entry that's on the Commonwealth Day. Cleaned toilet, washed basin and bath before doing my paper round. Came home, made breakfast, put washing in machine, went to school, gave Barry Kent his menaces money. Maybe Barry Kent is a naughty boy who threatens him to give money. Went to Bert Baxter's, waited for social worker who didn't come. Had school dinner, had domestic science, made apple crumble. Came home, vacuumed hall, lounge and breakfast room. Peeled potatoes, chopped up cabbage, cut finger, rinsed blood of cabbage. Put chops on the grill, looked in cookery book for a recipe for gravy, made gravy, strained lumps out with a colander, set table, served dinner, washed up, put burnt saucepans into sock, got washing out of machine, everything blue including white underwear and handkerchiefs, hung washing on clothes horse. Fed dog, ironed PE kit, cleaned shoes, did homework, took dog for a walk, had bath, cleaned bath, made 3 cups of tea, washed cups up, went to bed. Just my luck to have an assertive mother. That last sentence is ironical. Wednesday, March 18th. My mother and father are both speaking to solicitors. I expect they are fighting over who gets the custody of me. I'll be a tug of love child and my picture will be in the newspapers. I hope my sports clear up before them. Again, you can see the beauty conscious teenager here. He's not at all worried about the separation of his parents, but he's all concerned about the spots on his face. Monday, September 14th. Full moon. School dinners are complete crap now. Gravy seems to have phased out along with custard and hot puddings. A typical menu is hamburger, baked beans, chips, carton of yogurt, or a donut. It's not enough to build healthy bone and sinew. I'm considering about making a protest to Mrs. Thatcher. Students, Mrs. Thatcher was the then Margaret Thatcher was the then Prime Minister of England. It won't be our fault if we grow up apathetic and lacking in moral fiber. Perhaps Mrs. Thatcher wants us to be too weak to demonstrate in the years to come. There is something to laugh when he speaks about Mrs. Thatcher. Thatcher's reduced school meal. He's sure that she has reduced the school meal items because she wants children not to grow strong to protest against her later in the future. He wants the government that if the children grow criminal-minded and devoid of any moral values, the fault will lie entirely with them, as the children have been starved and undernourished in the school days. And here comes the next diary entry, which makes you burst out with laughter. Friday, November 13th, Pandora and I had a frank talk about our relationship tonight. She doesn't want to marry me in 2 years' time. She wants to have a career instead. Naturally, I am devastated by this blow. I told her I wouldn't mind her having a little job in a cake shop or something after a wedding. But she said she intended to go to university and that the only time she would enter a cake shop would be to buy a large, crusty is a cake. Harsh words were exchanged between us. Hers were harsher than mine. I don't think there is an explanation required here. First after Epiphany, Sunday, January 10th. I can't understand why my father looks so old at 41 compared to President Reagan at 70. My father has no work or worries, yet he looks dead haggard. Poor President Reagan has to carry the world's safety on his shoulders, yet he is always smiling and looking cheerful. It doesn't make sense. Here, Adrian compares his father and President Reagan. He has a scorn for his father. He says that President Reagan, even at 70, is very enthusiastic and dynamic, but whereas his father, who is at his 40, is very old, and it doesn't make any sense to him.